Well, as we finalize this video for everybody to get bored to death with, um, I just want to give a quick overview of the budget. You're going to notice during these slides my appearance is a little different. They were done over a period of time. Um, so the good news is, for people who don't want to go through this whole slide and listen to me, and I don't blame you, is our budget is about 2.7, 2.75, so 2.8 if you want to go that way, or 2.7 if you want to go the other way. Considering that the cost of living adjustments last year were 8.7%, it's a pretty good budget for us. And as I've been doing these budgets for 14 or 15 years, I'm always upfront and honest with everybody. The reason that we're only at 2.7 with a 8.7% COLA is because of the fact we don't have the large amount that went to the Thompson Community Center last year in this year's budget. So if that was still in there, we would have a much higher budget percentage-wise. But at 2.7%, it's a very reasonable budget in these times. We have invested in our people as we have the last couple of years. Right now, municipal jobs are open everywhere, and municipal employees are very valuable and really can travel anywhere. And we need to be competitive in the market within 60-mile drive, really, which is what seems to be the area that people move to. The budget also, the overview of the budget, it also continues our infrastructure, our road infrastructure, our building infrastructures. And we just recently heard about our S8040 and their lack of putting money in infrastructure. Now they need an $80 million bond to do that. We're continuing to put money away every single year, spending some of it, putting some of it in reserves. Our biggest infrastructure, our roads and our buildings, obviously. Most of our buildings are fairly new with the new public works garage. This town office a little bit older, and we'll start putting a little bit of money into it. But the infrastructure, if we keep that up as a town, we don't see these giant spikes in our taxes. As you go through here, you can see each individual warrant article. You can also come into the town office, grab a sample ballot, which has all the warrant articles on it, all the, what I call them, some of the fluff articles, and then all the monetary articles. We're going through the monetary articles on here mostly. And if you have any questions on any of the other articles, please send me an email or call, and we can answer those for you. We do urge you to go and get an absentee ballot, because I'm going to tell you right now they are very long. 8.5 by 14, double-sided. There are 2 pages, double-sided, so it's 4 pages just on the municipal budget, what stuff that you would normally do in an open town meeting. But since the town voted last year to go to referendum voting, it's all on paper. And then you have a ballot paper, which has all the candidates on it, and you have a school one. So come on in and get an absentee ballot. Take your time, vote at home, drop it in the drop box outside or bring it in. And you'll save everybody a ton of time. So we'll move on to the next bunch of articles, and if you have any questions, please let me know. So this slide has another retake in it, just as you see at June 13th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. we have referendum voting. As I mentioned in the previous slide, you can come in and get an absentee ballot, and we're really urging you to do that way. It will take the novice person who comes in and grabs a ballot, double pages, 8.5 by 14, probably 15 minutes to be in the ballot box. things could back up a little bit here on voting day. But you can come get an absentee ballot right now. Call up or come in person, get your ballot, and you can vote, and you can drop it off here anytime. If you go on to town hall streams, you can review this in the public hearing we had on the budget, which is May 20. It was on May 22nd, and back in April, there's some drop-down menus there. You can go back and look at all the budget committee meetings with the select board and the budget committee, and how we went over all the different budget items. It's nearly impossible for me to answer what I think people's questions will be on these budgets, but I really urge you, if you have a question like others have, just come on in and ask, and we'll be glad to answer those. Or you can email me at townmanager@union.maine.gov. Article 3 states to see if the town will accept a donation from Wyman's Incorporated on a parcel of land located on the Carroll Road. This article will allow us to accept a donation for a piece of land that is adjacent to the Carroll Road along the river. If you ever drive that way, you'll see we have barricades there right now, and this is to eventually move that road. We're going to apply for several state, federal grants, and to try to fund the majority of that. But the first step is to accept this piece of land that's being graciously donated by Wyman's, so we can move that road and not have it collapse into the river. So Article 4 is the one who has been the one that has been taking up all of our time lately. So unless you've been down in Florida all winter and not paying attention to any news, we received a citizen's petition to amend the land use ordinance about mining in the town of Union. The Board of Selectmen had several options, whether to put this article on the warrant or not. We'll talk quite a bit more about that at the public hearing. But basically, the board put this article on the warrant for you to vote on. The assumption is it will probably pass overwhelmingly. And then the very next article, we're going to ask you to put a moratorium on all mining across the town. And I'll tell you those reasons at the very next slide. Okay, so the very next slide is moratorium on mining. We are asking you to pass another moratorium on mining. Yes, you just passed one a little while ago. That was to prevent any applications from coming in from that date until town meeting date. Now, Article 4, the article right before this, which we assume will be overwhelmingly voted in, will conflict with our land use ordinance and our current mining ordinance, which will leave openings for a mining company to challenge the town. And as I said earlier, the Board of Selectmen had a couple of options. One, they could have just rejected the ordinance, which came from the petitioners, which would cause another bunch of headaches, and people would look and feel disenfranchised that we didn't honor their petitions. Now, I know our neighboring town took that approach, and I'm not saying one way is right and one way is wrong. We're all different municipalities. We have home rule, and everybody chooses a different way of doing things. We, with our attorneys, and we had 2 attorneys work on this, felt this was the best way to keep the town out of litigation, and litigation equals dollars out of your back pocket, because if any of you have ever hired a lawyer, you know they're extremely expensive. So what we're asking you to do is to put a moratorium, vote for this moratorium again, which is worded a little bit different than the other one, and then let our planning board work on getting all of our ordinances in compliance. So all three, the land use ordinance, the mining ordinance, and the comprehensive plan to all work together so there are no challenges involved in that. So we have asked you to vote for the moratorium, and we assume that the majority of Union residents will do that. And of course, if you have any questions on any of this, please contact me or any of the select board at any time. In case if you haven't guessed yet, this is another retake of this slide. I think you can tell from the lack of whiskers. I wanted to update this just to let everybody know, we're raising a lot of money. We have several pledges for the informational sign. I know there's been some discussion that a couple of times we had the sign update on the warrant, but they were for very large sums of money. This is $4,000. The rest of the money is being raised by fundraising, and it may all be raised by fundraising. But it would be really nice to have a little bit of an input from the town, a little bit of an investment in the sign, and we'll be able to change this sign on a daily basis, weekly basis, where it doesn't get done now. The current one does not light up. Not to say that the new one will be lit 24 hours a day. It won't. It will have a timer in it. So people who have issues with LEDs, you're not going to have flashing lights, you're not going to have bright lights, but we'll be able to have multiple items on the sign and remind you of certain things, when it's time to register your dog, when it's voting days, storm days, and it would have been very, very helpful during COVID and town emergencies, what to do, who to call, and all that. So I personally donated $1,000 to this sign, and many other people have stood up and matched that. So we do take donations. Come on in. There's some slips here at the town office. Your donation is tax deductible. So let's help get this sign updated. It was originally put out there by donations with very little town money. So let's update it now to the 2023 sign. So Article 7 is our capital improvement line. Capital improvement / reserves, we call them. So it's one of our largest money articles, no doubt. It includes reserves for future fire truck purchase, ambulance purchases, public works. And it also has all our capital programs in there, including paving and road construction for this year. We are very fortunate over the years. We have built up reserves, so we need to go buy a new vehicle, a new public works vehicle. That a great deal of that is already in our capital improvement and reserve account. So instead of going out, and having to pay, $1 million for a fire truck, we may have $600,000-700,000 already saved for it. This saves the taxpayers a ton of money in the long run, as we're not going to be paying interest, and as interest rates are getting up there on such a large dollar amount. Our road plan, we have been working on for 14, 15 years now, and this keeps our roads in good shape and costing us literally 2/3 less if we just let them become roads like you see in some other places around the state where you can just barely drive across them. It is a large amount of money, but in the long run, it saves you, the taxpayers, even a larger sum. So Article 8 is our debt service. These are items that you have approved in previous town meetings, um, whether it's a road bond, it's the public works vehicles and equipment where we have lease purchases, and so we put this all under the debt service. Debt service can go down next year, should go down next year as we're paying off some of these items. The largest item in here is a road bond that we did 4 or 5 years ago, and we still have a few more years to pay that off. But that road bond is what I call almost free money, if there is such a word, but it's less than 1% interest on that money. So it's a good value that the select board put before you and that you voted for. So Article 8 is our debt service stuff that's already been committed, and regardless, we have to continue paying for it. Well, general government, another one of those big items at 777,377. This includes some fairly large ticket items. Payroll is one of the biggest ones in there. Our payroll is in here. And if you go back and watch last year's video, we had a 3-year plan. Inflation has really kicked our butt with payroll. Wages are skyrocketing, especially in the municipal world that I'm familiar with. I'm sure it's the same in the private sector, but right now municipal employees are extremely valuable and can travel just short distances. Any local municipality around us within travel and distance has job openings. So our goal is to pay them, above the medium, so they're well paid, so they don't want to leave. And so we have some pretty good raises in our budget this year, and hopefully inflation will subside and we'll get back to normal cost of living adjustments. Insurances have not increased significantly, but they have a little bit. This budget also includes our building maintenance and our so we just finished lighting in here. We've got to do some other minor work, from locks to repairing doors. That also includes your assessor's agent, which is a contracted budget, a contracted agent. So not an employee, but a contracted agent. So 777,377 for Article 9. Article 10, which is our protection line. The total article is $951,619, as you can see here on the slide. But the total raised from taxes is $420,539. This includes Emergency Management Department. I will say we have increased that budget over the years. After COVID, we learned we had nowhere near enough funds in there to deal with an emergency. Our hydrant rentals, our animal control office, our planning and code department. But the biggest expense on here is obviously our EMS department and fire department. Now, emergency management services raises a lot of money, which is why you see a $950,000 budget, but only $420 from taxes. So a considerable amount of money comes from 2 other towns to help support our ambulance, plus the plus insurance fees and fees for actually going out in the rescue where people who aren't covered by insurance, or additional amounts that insurance doesn't cover, or all income that comes in here to the town. I am extremely pleased that the Emergency Services, aka Ambulance Department, formed a committee this year of all three towns, from 3 members from all three towns, who met for 8 to 10 months to review a budget, come up with a plan that all three towns can live with. And I will tell you that from the very beginning of that committee, there were people from opposing sides. I mean, total opposite poles. When they were done, this is how all committees should work. Nothing political. It was all done by facts and discussion. When they were done, they were all on the same page, and they came up with the ambulance budget, which provides all three communities with very good service. It also provides our EMTs some decent wages, some benefits, because right now EMTs, paramedics are extremely hard to get, very competitive. We have 2 or 3 people in our department who work full-time out of town. They have no issue driving to Southern Maine and Scarborough and working, 2 24-hour shifts. So we need to be competitive, and we are. The long-term answer for EMS is, I don't know what that is. There are ambulance departments struggling all across the state, and we hope the state's going to step in. There's several different bills up there. I never have a lot of faith in common sense bills getting passed, but we'll pass it along to you guys when we find out LD numbers, and if you want to contact your representatives and to get them to help fund these rural emergency medical service departments. It's a large number, but it's necessary for us to keep our houses from burning down and our loved ones from dying in the house from a lack of an ambulance being able to come. So Article 11, $68,494 is for health and sanitation. This includes a septic waste contract and Tri-County solid waste. So Tri-County solid waste is an assessment to the town. We have 2 representatives on there, as the other towns have 1 or 2 depending on their population. So this is mostly an assessment, and it includes $2,000 for the septic waste contract that we have with the company in Rockland to be able to have your septic systems. When you have your septic systems pumped out, we have to contract with somebody as a legal place to dump those. So they take them to Rockland under that contract. And yes, you get to pay twice. We get to pay for the contract, and you get to pay for the pumping. But again, most of this is Article 11, and most of this is $66,000 of this is Tri-County solid waste. The cost of getting rid of our municipal waste, which is your waste. Recycle, save money. Article 12 is $798,758. And yes, roads are expensive. This includes everything in your highway department except for the capital improvement, which is your major road repairs, your road paving. We put that under the capital improvement line. So it does include salary increases in the public works sector. It's extremely competitive. Truck drivers with Class A or B license really can work anywhere they want. There are companies out there advertising on the radio and in the newspaper right now, work 4 days a week, be home weekends, no nights. Our crew works and can work 7 days a week, work all night long, go home, sleep for 2 hours, come back and plow snow again. So we need to be competitive in the wages to keep our employees here. And I think that we're pretty close to that now. But you know, as we get our wages up, other people put their wages up. It's not a losing battle, but you know, right now we have a fantastic crew here, and have somebody that will be retiring at the end of the year, so we'll need to find somebody else. But most of this increase is in wages. We also have a basic road repair, so a non-capital improvement road repair, so washouts and those types of things, which we just did a lot of after this recent rain. It's can be quite costly to replace culverts and road washouts. This also covers a street light budget, covers some of the common maintenance. So it's a wide variety of items in Article 12 that are covered under the highway, bridges, road repairs, so under the public works budget. They do a great job. Our roads are in really good shape now. A lot of ditching, which prevented a lot of damage at this last storm. So quite proud of this crew. They've been doing a fantastic job. Article 13 is kind of by itself. It's a general assistance. So for those that you are not aware, general assistance is mandated by the state. I am past president of the Maine Welfare Directors, and we've been fighting for years to get some of these laws changed. It seems that the state, with the current administration, has been trying to expand general assistance quite a bit. We follow the guidelines that are set by the Department of Health and Human Services, aka the state of Maine, on who is eligible for general assistance. We also use what we call the Union Assistance Fund, which is what funds this whole general assistance budget. So this does not come out of tax dollars. It's not raised and appropriated out of taxes. It comes under a dedicated trust fund. But we're seeing more and more requests for electricity, rent, when after all the state subsidies and COVID handouts have happened. So it's up a little bit this year, but again, it does not have any impact on your taxes whatsoever. At the local level, I should say. So Parks and Recreation. So Parks and Recreation includes Air Park. So last year we wrote a couple of grants and received them to redo the boat launch, which was done. We want to thank the pooling committee for funding part of that. So we have a brand new boat ramp that we believe survived the winter quite well, although the water's so high after all this rain, and I'm recording this right after that major rainstorm in April. It's up to Depot Street, so it's kind of hard to look at the ramp right now. But it includes all the maintenance down at Air Park. It includes a baseball, softball, and basketball, tennis, and pickleball, which Parks and Recreation Committee is semi-active, and we have a great person and great people on the committee running that. There is plans. It's going to be a couple of years down the road to have the tennis courts and basketball courts resurfaced. We have a grant that we'll have applied for by the end of the year. We're pretty certain to get that, but it's a year and a half or so after that before we actually see the funding. Now, pickleball has been a really big thing. We have a group that is running their own right now, and that they have their own insurance and going to different venues. We hope to, when we redo the tennis courts, to have those lined for pickleball. And then, of course, the Thompson Community Center, we, we don't really know what the fate is of that yet. But if our preliminary plans come to fruition, we will have the brick building and the gym in there for more recreational opportunities. Or the town will have to decide on something else. And we also have in the long-term plans on Heel Highway, a multi-age and multi-purpose field over next to where Steel Pro will be putting up their new building. But we're a few years down the road for that. But if you're interested in parks and recreation, things for youth, we'll surely take you on our committees. Let me know. As I see the countdown on here as I'm doing this recording, I'm like, what do you say about Social Security? Um, it's up slightly because wages are up slightly. Um, it kind of is what it is, and it's an article by itself, which will probably be the last year it will be an article by itself. Um, you'll notice in the entire budget we've moved some stuff around and some from suggestion of our auditor and try to simplify things. And we'll be asking the townspeople maybe in the future about how we vote on all these items. If you want to continue doing it this way, or if you'd like to just vote on $1 item. So cemeteries is down a little bit this year, not much, about $1,000. But this includes the mowing and upkeep of the cemeteries. It really could be 3 times this because we have a lot of stones that need to be cleaned. Really would love to have a group of citizens learn how to clean stones and volunteer to do it. I'm not sure where volunteerism has gone, but it would be really nice that it's not that hard to do. It is time consuming, but it's darn near impossible to get stone cleaning companies to come for more than a couple of 3 days at a time. So basically we just use them for broken stones and stones are off their foundations and things like that. We're currently doing some tree trimming in the cemeteries. Unfortunately, these big old trees, they were beautiful, but they're dying off, and they're at the end of the lifespan, and we're pruning as many as we can. But when these giant 6-inch branches come falling down and they hit a stone, that giant tree is causing thousands of dollars of damage. Especially some of the older stones that are made of marble, are real marble, which we can't even replace them because they're literally multi-thousands of dollars to get marble. It's astronomical. Always looking for people to get on the cemetery committee. Myrna tends to do this by herself, and she's not going to be doing it forever. So we definitely need volunteers. So Article 17 is the unclassified. For those of you who are dedicated viewers and readers and followers of our budget, you'll see this is down significantly, like $700,000, because we've moved a lot of things out of the unclassified. They've been in there for years, and it was our goal to get them over where they belong, like in debt service and capital improvements and all that. So really this consists of the outside agencies, retirement expenses, and abatements. The majority of the cost is retirement and outside agencies. Those are things like Voce Library and Spectrum Generations and all those who petition the town for funds. So down significantly. A lot of things reclassified in this one this year. I am always surprised when people vote against Article 18 revenues, because none of this is tax dollars. It's all revenues from revenue sharing, ambulance billing, um, fees from animal control, investments, excise taxes, trust funds, perpetual care for cemeteries. It's about $1.5 million. So it's not an expense, it's revenues that offset your taxes. And these are estimated revenues. Revenue sharing can change, and ambulance billing obviously depending on the number of calls we get, and the reimbursement rates, those can all change. But it's about 1.5 million, almost 1.505, I guess it is. So this is an article that reduces your taxes. So carryovers, we have 3 items on our article to see if the town will vote to carry the unexpended balances in the following accounts. Cemeteries, because we have committed some of those funds, and also under the cemetery perpetual care, those funds have to go back. So some of that money that's in that budget came from perpetual care, and under law they have to go back into perpetual care. The same with animal control. There's a law out there about animal control. Unexpended funds go back into the budget. It simply saves you tax money the next year. We just don't raise it. Union Assistance Fund, that's a fund that we budgeted back in another article. But if there's a balance in there, it comes out of a dedicated trust fund. So again, that money must be carried over to go back into that fund. And I also have a building maintenance, because we have contracted for a couple of items here in the building that are not completed yet and may not be completed by July 1st. So all these amounts are going to be determined by the audit after June 30th, when we finally get an audit back, the total amounts that we carry over. In a regular formatted open town meeting like we used to have when everybody just showed up here, we could give you a really good estimate of what those were. But we're in, just the 1st of May right now, and the amounts are just, they're not going to be accurate by end of fiscal year June 30th. So we have this article in there. It will save you tax dollars by just rolling them over. Article 20 covers overdrafts. It's open-ended. Unlike a open town meeting form of government where, I was only 2 weeks away from the end of our fiscal year. When we did this budget, we were 3 months away from the end of our fiscal year. So we're going to have a couple of small overdrafts. One of them is going to be in an insurance line, and that's mostly in the workers' comp side. All of our EMS people have been moved to the fire department classification, even though some of them don't work in the fire department. It's one of those state things, and we did not expect that to happen. We didn't budget for that. There may be a couple other small ones in there, but they're all done after audit. And the good news is, we have a little over $100,000 from the previous year's budget of additional revenues that came in that will cover those overdrafts. So really no additional tax dollars to do this, but the law requires that the voters vote on the overdrafts. And if anybody wants to know what those final numbers are, we can probably tell you. I'll give you a really good rough estimate sometime mid-July in the exact dollar and cents after our audit. But normally our audits and nowadays are not completed until about May the following year. So, but anyway, this does not impact your taxes. We have enough income left over to be able to pay these. They're just line items that we need to take care of. Articles that are on here that are non-financial, we kind of call them the fluff articles. Everything from if we have additional resources that come in, so if we can, if the state gives us additional money, we can accept it and offset your taxes. And all the other articles are really fluff articles that give the select board the right to fix the salaries. An article that we can accept prepayment of taxes. What's the tax interest rates are going to be, and authorize the select board to be able to use insurance funds, like if we have an insurance claim, that we can use those funds to take care of the issue from the insurance claim. It gives the board the authority to apply for grants, which was extremely important during COVID, and just recently that we had a 10-day grant deadline. Last minute grant. If you apply for this, you can get this money, but you only have 10 days to do it. Impossible to put a town meeting together to get town approval to do that. And that grant gave us not a ton of money, but a little bit of money. And but I've seen other grants during COVID that gave us $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to offset your taxes. Gives the board another article gives the board the authority to sell surplus fire and office equipment. And the only other article that deals with money is just gives the town the authority to use the scholarship money to pay for scholarships. And that's pretty much it. Article 36, which is the very last article on your ballot, is the tax levy limit. That we are not exceeding that, so you still have to vote a yes or no. So you just need to vote yes or no. It doesn't really matter which way you vote on that one. We're going to put this will obviously is on a website, and we'll put our warrant articles will be on the website also, so you can go and follow all these as we went through them. This is a lot of information, sometimes hard to follow. I'm not a professional YouTuber or publisher. It's very important to be informed. Come to our meeting in May, the public hearing, and you can ask questions in each individual item. There will be on our website all the warrant articles that you're going to get to vote on. That's a lot. I mean, you have about 36 items, 34 items, I guess, you vote on during town meeting day, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on June 13th. We're going to work on another version of this referendum voting, if we can, where we take all these fluff articles at the end. I call them all the and fluff. I don't mean that they're not important. They are important, but they're articles that we just go through in 5 or 10 minutes at a town meeting, because they're just articles that are exactly the same every year. and that it's a possibility we could do those during a public hearing next year. Got to see what legal thinks of all this. Do a public hearing / town open on town meeting that day. Do those fluff articles and then postpone our meeting or recess our meeting until the actual June vote, and then be done. And that will save you a ton of time in the ballot box. What we don't want is everybody to go in there and just vote yes on everything, or just vote no on everything, and not read the articles. The good news is this budget is only 2.8% increase this year. I can't predict what the mill rate's going to be right now, but I can tell you over history that with a 2.8% increase, it's minimal, if any, increase in your mill rate due to increased values and increased new housing, new buildings in town. If you have questions on the budget, please send me an email. I'll try to answer any and all of them that I can. And let us know what you think about the referendum voting. So one of the other items that I would like to hear from people, and we'll ask at the public hearing, would you rather have one figure? So when you vote on the school budget, you get one total dollar amount, X millions of dollars. And it's not broken down this way. We broke it down this way because that's the way we did it in COVID, during COVID, and it's all new to us in this referendum voting. It was required that way in COVID, and now it's we have the option of doing it another way. We could simply give you $1 figure to vote on, and not all those multiple articles. Be interesting to see what you think about that.